When it comes to a fully loaded, fantastic example of a Range Rover Sport in a very desirable colour as well, there have to be very, very few on the market quite as lovely as this one, and we'll get of course into all of the reasons why. First things first, an Autobiography is of course the spec which most people want. You have that higher level of kit, even more goodies to play with, ease of life accessories as well. Across the board, they are absolutely loaded with extras, and of course we'll get into many of those here in the video. This exact car though is also in a rarer choice of colour, being the lovely Firenze red with jet black leather, suede headliner and aluminium trim. Even more so you could argue in this particular case with those big Brembo brakes and 22-inch contrasting black wheels. It is a striking looking car inside and out, and its history is perhaps one of the most impressive things about it. These of course when new, certainly in the case of an Autobiography, dynamic no less, such as this 2015 example is, up around and in many cases over 60 to 70,000 pound cars. This car now though, of course still retaining the option of low deposit financing if you did want to make use of it, is under £19,000, and that is for a car which has just kissed 72,000 miles. That's 17,000 less than the average for one of these in this spec on the market. Of course, with the 3-litre SD V6 engine, at this point the vast majority of cars which we're looking for in this kind of sphere tend to have that engine because, simply put, it's the one everyone wants, and it's not hard to see why. Fantastic pulling power, 440 foot-pounds of torque, that's up around 600 newtons. In other words, for a vehicle like this, towing a caravan would be the equivalent of carrying a chihuahua around. You'd barely even notice it's there. It has so much pulling power, and of course having a high torque, low revving engine means not only is it never working particularly hard, but it also has very, very good fuel economy, up to 40 miles per gallon average, as high as 44 on the motorway. And as always, it's easy to let these numbers wash over you, but when you step back and consider this is a full-size, very well-equipped Range Rover we're talking about, hardly the smallest and lightest of city vehicles at the end of the day, to still achieve that kind of economy, it's quite remarkable. And of course its road tax benefits immediately from that, because it's £345 a year in comparison to even some older Range Rovers being as high as £800 a year. When it comes to this particular car though, it really is its history which speaks volumes to how loved it has been. Its visual condition inside and out is superb, but its history even more so. It has a full main agent and Land Rover specialist history to its name. In fact, most recently in March of this year, it has had, take a deep breath, its oil and filter changed, antifreeze and screen wash, its diff and transfer box oil changed, its automatic gearbox oil changed and serviced as well, new wheel nuts, new control arms, fresh cam belt and idler pulleys, fresh fuel and air filter, as well as a new fuel sensor as well. In other words, everything you would want from a major service, and then some. The definition of a car which is ready to continue serving as well as it has been already. Speaking to towing ability, this particular car also has that electronically deployable tow bar, panoramic roof, heated seats and steering wheel, 1700 watt, 19 speaker Meridian sound system. Of course, that is a signature point of the Autobiography, and one of many people's favourite things about these. In fact, those aforementioned 22-inch wheels, which are much harder to find on these cars, touchscreen display with 12-volt power points, auxiliary input, Bluetooth, voice control navigation, USB ports, adaptive cruise control as well, parking sensors of course with reverse camera, xenon headlights with LED day runners, signature LEDs in fact, with of course LEDs on the rear as well, triple zone climate control with climate controlled seats, power opening and closing tailgate. It has that dual speed high and low ratio transfer box, which as we said has had its fluid changed, and what that means in practice is of course you can take it off-road and on-road, and particularly during the winter months, depending on where you live, that really could come in handy. And of course last but definitely not least, if you do plan to use it as a school runner, a holiday vehicle, a family car and need to fit child seats, it does of course come with ISOFIX anchor points as well. If you've already been on the lookout for a gorgeous looking, very, very high spec Range Rover Sport, particularly in Autobiography trim, or here an Autobiography dynamic, then this is, as we said, certainly one of the most desirable on the market. And as we always like to say, especially when it comes to Range Rovers, we don't think this car is going to stick around for very long. If you would like to reach out about this exact vehicle, then of course you could send us an email to the address shown here on screen, or give us a call on 01749 871155, or of course via our mobile number of 07482 267 439.